Hey guys, welcome back. We're on the fourth episode of the series Fernando and I are doing on the Yavanajataka, India's oldest horoscopic
I
text.
think this is the third.
No, this is the fourth.
Great. You passed the test. Great job.
Okay. So we're going to be doing chapters 27 through 34 today. And it's kind of an interesting amalgamation of chapters, mostly on divisionals, getting more deeper into divisionals. But chapter 27, as we kick it off, is rather kind of an oddball chapter. So we'll just do our best to, bring you the word on what that very strange chapter says and so on. And did you have anything you wanted to say before we get to it?
I just wanted to say that we have started with the Vargas, as you correctly mentioned, the divisional charts. And for those people who do not know what the Vargas or divisional charts are basically charts that are extrapolated from the original Rashi chart by the division of the Rashis into certain numbers. And there's a variety of different Vargas charts. There's one that divided by 2, one by 3, 1 by 4, 1 by 7, 1 by 9, and so on and so forth. So it's a very popular topic in astrology, specifically in Jyotish. And contrary to what most people believe, this has been popularized more or less in the last 50 years, the use of Vargas, and especially extensive Vargas. We're not talking about the simple ones like the Navamsas or the Drekkana or the Horas. We're talking about D60, D45, D30. This has been popularized in recent years, I would say, or recent decades. Yeah. Another interesting topic that most people don't know, Vargas in Spanish, it's a last name. So that's something interesting that I should mention. Because when I started studying Jyotish a few years ago, I saw, Mr. Vargas. I had a teacher who was called. So yeah, it reminded me. So for those who speak Spanish or for those who know a Mr. Vargas somewhere, that's the last name in Spanish. So yeah, that's my funny nugget for the day.
Alrighty, yeah, awesome. And folks watching this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and share these videos. Also check out Fernando's YouTube channel in the comments section below and whatnot. So, all right. Otherwise, we're just going to get started here. I'm going to share the screen.
So let's start with chapter 27. That it's complicated to understand. It's a short chapter, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not the smart one here, so I didn't understand it. So let's just dive in to see what it says.
Okay. Chapter 27 is basically about how to groom your cat. It's pretty much all about grooming your cat. So that's all you need to know. So let's just move on.
No pun intended.
Literally no pun intended. That just came into my mind. But no, it's really about it's a little bit about health and about looking at the different parts of the body. Yeah. Utilizing both the Horas and the Drekkanas. But the thing that's strange about it is that he starts to talk about the Horas and then he switches to the Drekkanas like immediately. Yeah. And we can't help but wonder if maybe, is this like a mistake in the text? Like, should it just keep saying Hora? Or is there really something to the Drekkana thing? But as we can see with this first shloka, we have basically this idea, with respect to the limbs of the native's body, the first Hora in the ascendant is to be mentioned as beginning with the head. But then he doesn't really... Well, this is where he switches to decans, right? In number 2, one should know that the right and left sides of the body correspond to the triads of the deacons.
That's where I got lost.
What the heck?
He's talking about pairs, and then he's talking about triads.
Doesn't see, the way I think about it is, I came up with a good rationale before I even read this chapter for how you could use the Horas. You could basically take all the solar Horas as being the right half of the body, and all the lunar Horas as being the left half of the body, and that makes good sense just in terms of energy medicine. And that may be what he's telling us to do here, but it's very jumbled.
But where do the triads come in?
I don't know. Well, another thought I had is maybe if we look at each sign and we take the decan in the middle as like the center of the body, kind of like the Shushumna, right? And then the other decans on either side is like the right and left side. showing like the actual body parts. But I think that's a little bit of a stretch. That was me kind of just being creative with it, in an attempt to...
I remember that in Jyotish, you can divide the body by decans. And there's like, some people might remember or have seen the North Indian chart where you have a body, like the Vastu body, but superimposed to the North Indian chart. And you can see by the decans the different parts of the body, the head, the arms, the torso, the groin, and the legs. So this idea is prevalent in Jyotish, but the explanation in Shloka 2 by Sfudishvaya, I practiced it, by the way.
Sfudishvaya.
Yeah, just to let people know, it's not only Americans that get the names wrong. Everybody does. So.
Yeah, we could just call him Spoojmeister for short. Spooji.
Spooji. No, Spoojiji, like in India.
Spoojiji, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, one should know that the right, and the left sides of the body correspond to the triads. What does that mean?
Oh, in the two halves of the zodiac. I think he's talking about the above the horizon and below the horizon.
You mean like Cancer Capricorn division? Right?
Yeah, but taking the horizon, because later on,
like ascendant, descendant. Okay.
Yeah, because later on here, he's talking about the face with the planets, like Venus ruling the cheeks is interesting. I haven't seen that anywhere, but there's a part where he says, oh yeah, it's right here. The parts of the body to the left and to the right are affected by the Vargas, beginning with the ascendant, which have risen or which are not risen, proceeding backwards, forwards with respect to constant motion of the zodiac. I think this is the idea that we do see this in some later texts, I believe, where it's this idea that like instead of using the houses based on the Aries rising, instead of doing that for the body parts, it's like you move out from the ascendant like in both directions to get the different pairs of the body parts. Okay. So I wonder if that's what he's getting at. I mean, it's very jumbled. Cryptic, so yeah, I can't be sure. But then he says the 3 series of Horas begin?
Exactly. There we go.
I think there's some mistakes here. I really do.
Because if he means the 3 series of Horas, he means 3 signs, right? That's the only way to understand this passage.
I guess.
He's referring to 3 pairs, like 6 halves, right?
I guess, yeah.
Not what you understand by it. What you understand are Drekkanas, not Horas. The 3 series of... Yeah. I mean, what actually, I mean, that's put in there by Pingree. What it says is the Horas begin, right?
Yeah, well, he must have had a reason for putting in 3 series of. There must be some...
let me call him up. Let me call Pingree up. Yeah.
All right, call him. Yeah. We got to find this out. Get to the bottom of this. Yeah. No, I don't know. But like then later, the first division of limbs is 2 ears, 2 eyes, and so on. He's, heart and belly. So these are, to me, these could be the 2 Horas of the signs corresponding. Like, the heart and belly could be the 2 Horas of Cancer or the 2 Horas of Leo, depending on how you look at that. But it's not really, it's not that clear. Unfortunately. So we're kind of left to really ponder this. Yeah. And then, at the end, it's just malefics cause disease and benefics, cause health in whatever signs
there is. Usually is how it goes. Yeah.
But, man, I had a thought once too, that the Drekkanas of each sign could be used to divide that sign's region of the body into different parts. Yeah. So in other words,
I've seen that before in Jyotish. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool. I never saw it anywhere, but it was just a thought that
let me just tell you, I'm not that into medical astrology. So
okay.
I'm just very neophyte in that term because I just try to concentrate more on prediction and psychological aspects. But the idea of medical astrology is very interesting. And what you've just said, I've seen that in Freedom Tobias call writings.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I find it pretty. I find medical astrology pretty
Fascinating. Oh,
yeah,
without a doubt. The
and
thing is
so
that nobody remembers how to do it correctly.
yeah, it's true. But like, just to give our viewers a quick example of what I mean, like in at least in like one tradition of astrology, Leo rules over like the heart, the spine, and the liver.
Some say
Okay.
the stomach too. Yeah.
Some say the stomach too, and some give the heart to Cancer. So
Yes.
it's totally fine whichever one you use. But like, let's just say I used that in Leo, then it would be like maybe the first decan of Leo is the heart, the second is the spine, and the third is the liver. You know, so that would be a very practical way to utilize deacons. And actually, I shouldn't say I've never run across something like this, because there is something like this from, I think, like the Liber Hermetis that I have.
Okay.
But it's not exactly what I just said. So I didn't invent this, but
and
anyway.
people have to realize also that in the ancient world, like this was very important to medicine, the astrological side of
super important. Yeah.
Actually, today most doctors graduate, and when they graduate, they say the Hippocratical Oath. How do you say it in English?
The Hippocratic Oath.
The Hippocratic Oath. And people don't realize that one of Hippocrates, one of his most famous quotes is that a doctor who does not know astrology is not a doctor at all. Because, and this is something that I understand from medical astrology. Correct me if I'm wrong. Medical astrology is not used to cure. It is used to diagnose and to pinpoint what things we're going to have wrong in our body, right? In order to cure, you have to know Ayurveda, you have to know other science.
Yeah. Medical astrology is a tool that can assist a physician in creating a cure or attending to the person medically properly. And it can also be used, like I knew this girl once who was getting really ill, and she finally discovered that in her home there was like mold, and that the mold was making her ill. And so you could do a medical horary chart to ascertain the cause of the illness.
Definitely.
And that's technically medical astrology. You're just not necessarily going to go farther than that. So I've actually done a lot of medical astrology, and it's really profound stuff. So
because people who do not know astrology or come from the outside of the astrological world, when they hear the idea of astrological astrology, most of them think about, magic, wizardry, and that's not medical astrology. What we do is basically what you just told.
Yeah,
it's the idea of pinpointing the areas where we're gonna have problems, the reasons why we have problems.
Exactly.
And that's as far as the astrologer should go, unless he is a practitioner of Ayurveda or a certified doctor.
Yeah.
Afterwards, he has to refer the client to a health professional.
Exactly.
And to be honest, it's not that hard to see afflictions to the body, specifically by carcassship. No, that's not a word. By carcass in a.
Oh yeah. It's not at all. Like I've seen several charts of afflicted Mars where the person had their gallbladder out, for example. Wow. And
Venus afflicted can represent venereal diseases, for example.
Sure.
Jupiter afflicted problems with weight, with fat, diabetes.
Yep. I've seen a couple charts, night charts, where Jupiter was rising in a watery Rashi, where the people were very overweight.
Yeah. The problem comes in when astrological significators, have a short circuit, right? There's a debate about who rules the bones, for example. Some people say Saturn, some people say the sun, the blood, some people say Mars, some people say the moon, some people say it's like a lot of planets. Another one is who rules the specific organs. There's like debate there. So that's mainly the debate with astrological astrology. Medical astrology. I'm sorry.
Medical astrology.
Astrological astrology.
Well, and then that's true. But another good and you just have to go with like what makes the most sense to you and try it out in practice and see if it works. But another good use of medical techniques is electing for surgeries.
Oh,
and
definitely.
determining whether or not the treatment a person is receiving is actually effective. These are great things you can do with medical astrology, and you don't have to be a certified doctor, because electing for a surgery, I mean, there's just some simple rules about it. And the same with like pregnancy stuff, and then finding out if the medicine a person's taking or the treatment is helping them. That's very easy to do. And this is all with prajna, actually, most of this stuff.
Muhurtas, yeah.
And muhurta, yeah, but prajna for like the medicine thing. And, yeah. So anyway, that's some interesting stuff. We get a little taste of that in Yavanajataka. Yeah. All right, chapter 28.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
with the Horas.
Yeah, chapter 28 brings us back to the Horas, and we get some interesting interpretations about just what they actually cause beyond the images we saw in chapter 2.
I just want to say, for people who do not know, Horas are basically the second divisional chart, where you basically divide each Rashi into 2 parts, and then you make a divisional chart from that division of 2.
Yep. And what's interesting here is, we'll just get into it, and then I'll actually talk about this. But shlokas basically 2 through 4 I thought were worthy of reading, and then we'll just take a look at a couple other ones for fun.
Yes, sir.
There are always an essence, position, characteristics, and form similar to its internal form and characteristics. So inner, outer, mirroring each other. Like a mirror of its image, this is produced not by its own substance, but in the world of men. And this is just like some philosophical thing that he just kind of puts in here. And I don't know why it's in this chapter, but it could be significant to the Horas. There are 24 halves of the signs or Horas belonging by their favor to the sun and the moon. I shall describe those which are favorable because of their positions and so on. The sun rules the first Hora in the odd signs and the second in the even, and the moon rules the rest. Yeah. If the lord of a Hora is in a cardine, meaning an angle, there is an influence from its position and aspect. So 2 things I want to say here is that, one, earlier in the text, he gives a different arrangement of how the Horas are ruled, which is
really? I forgot.
Yeah, in chapter 1, I think he gives like the first Hora is ruled by the sign, and the second is ruled by like the 11th sign from it or something. It's very odd, And then, but here he's giving the arrangement that that is a bit more common. You can't really make a divisional chart out of this, right? Because it's all just sun and moon. So,
there is a way. I mean, there is a way,
yeah.
And we must emphasize that there are different ways to make Horas and to make Drekkanas.
Right.
That some people don't realize, but this is one of the ways you can make a Hora, for example, which you will only have 2 Rashis with planets in the chart. That's it.
Yeah, but what I do personally, and I found this effective, even though I haven't tested it that much, is to just see of the ascendant and all 7 planets, like how many, if there's more in the sun's Hora or more in the moon's Hora. And that'll actually give you kind of a basic overview of some sort of fundamental feature of the chart. Are they more solar or more lunar, just based on the Horas? So that's kind of a cool
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then it's very important here that he's saying if the lord of the Hora is in a cardine, there is an influence from its position and aspect. Well, I don't know if he means the lord as in the sun or the moon, or if he means the
ascendant lord or the planet in question, yeah.
Or the earlier arrangement he gives in the text of like that weird, whatever it was. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly, but
which once again brings to the table the issue that classical authors did not use pictures, and if they would have just pictures, it would have been better for us dumb people of the future to understand.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I mean, a few of them, at least, like Valens gave a lot of examples, which is nice. Examples. And so you can draw what he says out.
But he never drew them.
No, he never drew them.
He just gave
it's pretty funny. Yeah.
We're little kids. I mean, you got to think about the future.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, though. So did you want to?
No, talk more about that. Not necessarily. It's just another aspect of the book where you kind of go Hora by Hora and giving its descriptions. And as we go along, we got to realize that these chapters, we're going to see some traditional things that go on in Jyotish. But as we mentioned before the recording, the descriptions of the Rashis are more or less predictable, specifically when they mention negative, malefic Mars and Saturn Rashis.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And another thing that we mentioned that you corrected me was that there is no mention of Bhargotama except in like one shloka that we're going to talk about later on.
Yeah, I mean, there's Bhargotama earlier in the text too.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
But Bhargotama is very important, especially with Navamsa and the way it is valued today in Jyotish. I guess he should have mentioned that at the beginning or the end of the chapter of Navamsa, but he does not do that, I guess.
Yeah.
And Bhargotama traditionally is seen as very important, right, in traditional Jyotish.
Yeah.
But in modern Western astrologers who practice Jyotish, some have said that it's not that important. I'm thinking about James Braha, for example. So it's interesting.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he said that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was controversial back in the 90s. But I don't know if he, Sfudish Meister G, it brings into question these very strong Jyotish ideas that the earlier writings do not put so much importance to them or just mention them in passing. You know what I mean?
Oh no. I mean, Yavanajataka is really clear when it does mention it, that Bhargotama is very powerful.
Yes, but in these chapters, he does not mention it.
Oh, right. Not extensively.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
No. He does mention it at the beginning. We mentioned that in the first
video. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But in these chapters, he does not go into that.
No, not in great detail.
And if you can see the descriptions of the planets in their own, when we see them, it's okay, but it's not like exaltation maximum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say real quick too that I was going to read my Hora for the Ascendant.
Sure.
Because it's fun, and I was going to say my moon, which rules this Hora, is in an angle and aspecting this Hora. So,
but this is the Hora of your ascendant, Lord, right?
Of my ascendant.
Okay, not the moon. Okay.
Yeah. So my moon rules this Hora according to Sun Moon rulership. My moon aspects it. So, one born in the first Hora of Virgo is handsome, youthful body, speaks well and knows crafts and sacred traditions, soft-eyed, courteous, sweet, fond of women, singing, music, and sex. Interesting. Did you want to read yours or no?
You're sure. It's in the first Hora of Sagittarius, which would be ruled by the sun, right?
Yes.
It's an odd one. It's the first one. Yeah.
Yes.
And in my Hora chart, I don't know if it's expected by the moon, but I don't know. Or
No. I mean it's expected in the Rashi chart by the moon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because remember we gotta. Well, we don't have to do anything, but I'm trying to go by what I think Yavanajataka is telling us to do. So
where is it? I can't see the. Oh my God, where is my?
Oh, did you lose it?
I can't see the. Oh my God, where am I?
Just click on.
There we go. I got it. Okay. Then I have the Mac, and it was in that hidden, whatever.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. I know.
One who is born in the first Hora of Sagittarius has a
face.
Point. Let's just presuppose he mentioned a very beautiful, sexually appealing face, especially for women.
Yeah, I'm glad you have a face, though.
Yes, no fatties. Broad mouth and chest. Handsome nose and cheeks. Yeah, handsome nose. Yeah. And a wide, curving eyes. He is an ascetic who had no guru in his youth. I certainly did not have a guru in my youth.
Wow.
And, I have Jupiter in Capricorn in the 7th in Navamsa. So, yeah, gurus and me are not there usually. But sure. I've had teachers. Don't get me wrong. I've had teachers.
So this interpretation could be extended in the modern day to sort of refer to like a person who may not be inclined to have like a guru type figure in their life or whatever,
That's me basically.
And that makes sense with regard to other Jyotish stuff we see when the sun and Jupiter or sun is influencing the ninth house and stuff. So it's kind of like a sun Jupiter thing happening there.
Because it's the king in the church in a way,
Yeah.
The sun in Sagittarius. So that's the never-ending debate: who is superior in a traditional order, the head of the church or the head of the state, which usually was just one, right? But yeah, we're not gonna go into that. So let's continue.
Okay. Cool. So then, big surprise, the next chapter is the same thing, but for the Drekkanas.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to see if I underlined anything there. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I did underline something at the very end of this Hora chapter.
Yes.
That I thought was, I guess, interesting. 29. If the Lord of the Hora, either the sun or the moon, is strong in aspects or is in a cardine, either at the time of conception or at birth, then the Hora has the influence which has been described. So I guess that answers our question. He is using the sun and moon exclusively when he talks about the Lord of the Hora. And I just wanted to mention that again because this is to say it's also with the Drekkanas. If the Lord of the Drekkana isn't really that strong, Lord of the Drekkana of like the ascendant or the moon or any position, then arguably the Drekkana is not really going to be that influential. And same with the Hora. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, chapter 29.
Do you know where the other form of doing the Hora came about, or?
It's somewhere in the beginning of chapter 1, like probably on the second page of where the text starts.
Okay.
You'll also find the Drekkana rulership, and the Drekkana rulership is very strange as well.
Yeah.
He gives the Drekkana rulership is the planet ruling the sign rules the first Drekkana. The planet ruling the 12th sign from that sign rules the second.
Crazy. Yeah.
And then the planet ruling the 11th sign from that planet rules the third Drekkana. So I've never made use of this. I personally make use of the popular Hellenistic one, which starts with Mars in Aries and then moves in terms of the Chaldean order of the planets, which is Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, and then it just keeps repeating.
There's another way done by the elements, right? The idea of the first Drekkana. So, people have to realize that once again, the way we make Drekkanas vary in a way.
Yeah.
And I think you can also make one with the decans, if I'm not mistaken. Can you?
Well, the Drekkanas are the deacons.
No. By the faces, I'm sorry. By the face lordships, right? That would be the Chaldean order you mentioned?
Yeah. I use that pretty much exclusively.
Okay.
But I also do like the other one. The elemental one is nice too.
And I'm going to be honest with you. This is a reason why I don't use Drekkanas and Horas a lot, because there's just so much going on. And
yeah, they're very strange. I mean, I personally don't feel like the first Drekkana of Hora or of Virgo is mine. I don't really think it.
You're tall. How?
Yeah, I felt like the second one described me better, but I think that at the end of the day, if you go by the rules of Yavanajataka, my Mercury, which would rule this, is not really that strong.
Maybe you have to rectify your chart.
Maybe, yeah. But the Hora that I listed, I mean, at least some of those qualities describe me, I thought. But this one was just kind of like, I mean, maybe I will have an excellent wife and get money from women later on, but I certainly don't have an excellent wife that I get money from right now. So, maybe I'll be eating my words and this will make sense. But
you have to use Tinder then.
So many funny things coursing through my mind after you said that. But let's pretend if I was born in like the second or third Drekkana, for the second I would have to look at the sun, which rules the 12th sign from Virgo, and for the third I would have to look at the moon, which rules the 11th sign from Virgo, right? So it'd be a different way of doing it. I only have, well, I guess like I have, I don't know, I only have 2 planets, believe it or not, that are in this, that are not in a first Drekkana.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't have much to test this out on. Do you? What about you? Do you have anything we could test Yavanajataka's lordship scheme over?
You would have to see my ascendant Drekkana, which would be the second Drekkana of Sagittarius, which would be ruled by Mars, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So one born here it is. Yeah. And where and your Mars is in the 11th, right?
The 11th, exactly.
Okay, so it's kind of like medium strength. Mars.
Yeah, sextile. I mean, and no, well, it's in terms of dignity. I'm sorry.
No, just in terms of, I mean, it's placed in the 11th, which is a strong house. Yeah, because it's a succeedent house.
Correct.
But is born, or do you want to read it?
Oh yeah, in the second Drekkana of the 9th, Sagittarius is born an orator who knows the meaning of the sciences and who performs the kratu and satra sacrifices. I don't know what that is. Do you know?
No, I don't. They must be some kind of Vedic ritual or something like that.
The best lord of those who cast spells or give advice. He is a peaceful man who travels to many pilgrimage and sanctuaries. I think that's more or less me. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I mean, on some level, right? I mean, Mars. What? And your Hora. So your Hora lord would be in the 12th, so it's not really exerting a powerful influence.
My Hora lord would be but my Hora lord is my Atmakarka.
Well, yeah, let's not, I mean, just by the rules of Yavanajataka, right? So Mars would be exerting a stronger influence as this Drekkana lord than the sun. So
in a way, yes.
Yeah, so I think that I think on the ascendant at least, and so I think that matches up, that works. I think that these techniques really
but in a way they don't match up with sect, for example. So, which he mentions at the first chapter also.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just because Mars isn't in sect doesn't make it not strong. It just makes it not it just makes it a little more unruly, perhaps. I mean,
and the more friction between the two, but I guess it's kind of, I don't know. It's funny system, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. I mean, I would probably just keep using the Chaldean system of rulership and use the Yavanajataka descriptions and see how that worked. Myself, I just really like that system, and I've worked with it a lot, and I think it works really well. But there's nothing to say that this system won't work either. It's just very odd, indeed. All right, cool. Well, moving on. See, did I have anything to say?
Next we go to the Saptamsas, the 7th division fold.
Oh yeah, so yeah. But just real quick.
You want to say something else? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, he just wraps it up here again by saying, if the Lord of the Drekkana is strong, aspected by a benefic, one should decide that the influence of the Drekkana is not to be modified.
Okay.
So that's kind of interesting. It's just kind of, again, showing how Yavanajataka, I think, and we're going to keep seeing this as we go through the other chapters here in this video. Yavanajataka is really big on like all these divisions, but it's also big on saying, like, if the lord of this particular division is stronger than like the regular lord of the sign, then things are modified. And like, it's almost like you want to look at that more. So Yavanajataka is heavily using these divisionals as part of the Rashi chart. It's not creating separate charts for these divisionals. They're integrated into the Rashi chart as far as I can tell. And we're going to see here too that like it talks about a planet aspecting its own Saptamsa. And I think for that to happen in any sort of logical, usable format, that has to be by degree. Right, that has to be within like a small degree range. Like potentially they have to be in the same Saptamsa relative to the signs they're in terms of just the division. So they each have to, like, if it's the second Saptamsa that a planet rules in some sign, that planet theoretically should also be in the second Saptamsa of wherever it is placed, so that it's making a very close degree-based aspect. Because otherwise, you're going to have many planets by whole sign aspecting their Saptamsa, and then it just becomes, what's the point of this, you know? So do you have an opinion about that? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Cool. Okay. So Saptamsa, yeah, let me just look at my notes real quick here. Yeah, I have some interesting, just little portions of it underlined, but he's just going to describe the Saptamsas, which belong to the 7 planets in the order of the lords of the signs, excluding repetitions. And before we dive totally into this part, I did check the calculation of Saptamsas earlier in the text, and I was surprised a little bit to find that it's slightly different from the way Parashara does it. I mean, not that surprised, but surprised nonetheless, because it doesn't end up being a harmonic division. It ends up being a little bit more contained within the sign. In other words, you start with the lord of that sign, and then you just follow the planets, excluding repetitions, in the order that would come after that sign. So, but in Parashara's method, all of the even Rashis end up beginning with the sign opposite them, actually. So, like in Parashara's method, my Jupiter moves, which is in the first Saptamsa of Cancer, moves into Capricorn in the Saptamsa. But in this method, it would actually be in the same Saptamsa. However, he doesn't relate the Saptamsas to signs. He relates them only to planets. So my moon, or my Jupiter, wouldn't be in Cancer Saptamsa. It would be in the moon Saptamsa. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I'm just thinking where mine would be.
Oh, okay, cool. And then the next sign, the next Saptamsa after that would be ruled by the Sun, because Leo comes next after Cancer. Then the third Saptamsa, Mercury, because Virgo comes after Leo, and so on. And then you get all 7 planets ruling the Saptamsas of the sign. So it's a slightly different method of later Saptamsas, and it's not having anything to do with childbirth. It's having instead to do, it seems, exclusively with modifications to character.
Which is the traditional use of the Saptamsa,
right?
The idea of children.
Children, like looking at, having kids, and some people use it for desires, like 7th house kind of things. But if we think about it, a division by 7 is not necessarily related to the 7th house, because the 7th house arises from a division by 2. Yeah. So harmonically, the Vargas in Jyotish and the way they're used don't always line up harmonically, mathematically, with the geometry, and so that's something else to just keep in mind. It's just interesting. Did you want to say something?
I was thinking that I think mine is in the Saptamsa of Saturn, but I'm not sure my ascendant. But it's okay.
Yeah, I think it would be the same. It's going to be the same for all the odd Rashis, but it's going to be changed for the even Rashis because of what I explained. So your sun will be in a different Saptamsa according to this. But again, he's thinking in terms of planets, not signs. And I think he's very clear about that.
Oh, you're gonna talk about the 4th shloka, right?
Yeah.
Me too. I have that one down. Okay.
Awesome. And I'll just say real quick too that as we move into Navamsa, we'll find that Navamsa is used both as a sign-based Navamsa and as a planetary rulership Navamsa, and Dwadasamsas is used exclusively for signs. So what's interesting, and I just noticed this now, is that you have Saptamsa, which is only planets, you have Navamsa, which is both, and then you have Dwadasamsas, which is only signs. So Navamsa sort of bridges the two. Okay, so Shloka 4. If the Lord of the Day aspects the ascendant and is in its own Saptamsa, or in conjunction with the moon, the men who are born then have forms and natures like those of that planet. This is like one of the only references I've ever seen to the Day Lord being important.
Does that mean the sect, right?
Oh, I thought it meant like the Lord of the Day, like the day the person was born on. But you related it to sect. Well,
yeah,
it could be either.
That was my question, because why is this shloka here? What does the sect have to do with charts? But you mean like, the moon for Monday, Mars for Tuesday, so on and so forth. I don't know, man. These books are very frustrating for people who want to get clear answers.
Yeah, because I don't think he mentions. I could be wrong, but I don't remember.
He hasn't mentioned sect in a while.
No, planetary days. Does he mention planetary days?
No, that I know.
Not that I remember.
I don't know. I don't remember that in chapter 1, but
that's how I took it, and I found it interesting because if we think about the day lord, most of us focus on the hour lord, but the day lord is kind of like a very impersonal influence. And so I was sort of thinking that maybe this is a clue that the Saptamsa shows something about our like Saturnic destiny. The 7 is very related to Saturn.
I thought it was the sect lord because he was talking about the moon and the sun before in the Horas chapter. So, I don't know.
Okay, well, no worries. Yeah, I mean, it's something to contemplate and whatnot. And then he starts just talking about, what the Saptamsas mean on their own, like a Saptamsa
according to his system.
The Saptamsa of Venus. And we would probably, again, be looking at the moon or the ascendant most likely.
And the descriptions are very predictable.
They're
Mars, aggressive, Saturn, ugly, Venus, beautiful, Jupiter, wise,
Yeah, Saturn's the most negative, I think. A lazy fool who acts wrongly and delights in evil.
Man, poor Saturn, man.
But then he says the proper influences of these planets at birth are to be known as arising from the operations of their houses, dejections, and exaltations. So again, he backpedals a bit and says you got to see what condition the planet's in. And
confluence, yeah.
Yeah. And then I had number 9 underlined. If a planet which is lord of the Saptamsa possessing the ascendant or the moon is strong and in an angle and aspects its own Saptamsa, then with no commingled influence, it establishes its own form as the form of men in the yoga of birth. That's a pretty bold statement. I mean, basically saying that if the Saptamsa lord is stronger than the ascendant lord and aspects its own Saptamsa in that ascendant, right, or in the moon, I guess, or whatever, then it's very powerful. It influences the person very powerfully. So,
man, I know these chapters on the divisional charts for me are just too convoluted, and the system they use are very different to others. And
you blasphemous son of a bitch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
I'm just kidding. I don't care.
No, I don't care. I'm a who cares?
Well, did we want to look at our Saptamsas for our ascendants?
Well, the thing is that I don't know where mine is because it's another system, right?
What's your degree?
Of my ascendant?
Yeah.
It's 1245 Sagittarius. So it would be like in the 3rd, right?
That would be, oh shit. That's possibly the 3rd, but I think it might just be the 4th.
We have to divide. No, I think it's the 3rd because it's like the
4. It's like 4 degrees and something minutes, like 17 minutes per Saptamsa. Something weird like that.
I have to divide 30
by 7.
By 7, right?
Yeah.
It's 4.285. No.
So, well, if you just took
4.3, it's not 4.
Yeah, so it'd be about
accurate. It's 4.28.
Yeah, so that would equate to about 4 degrees and like 18 minutes, maybe.
It's the 3rd. It's the 3rd one.
So that would be. So I guess yours would just be still in the 3rd.
Yeah.
Let's say. So we'll just look at them for fun, as we always do here. And this is every Saptamsa in every sign, which is really cool. And you can see, if you understand the lordships, you can see how he's basing it. So mine is the 3rd, which is pretty negative, but super accurate. This is exactly who I am. 3rd Saptamsa is born one whose eyes and limbs are red and whose body hair is thin.
You mean you smoke pot and you are balding? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. A man whose face is terrible, and like a rash man's, an arrogant and fickle person of little thought who finds pleasure in stealing and delights in despair and deception.
Nice. Very beautiful.
Nice, great. Yeah, exactly me. My hair is extremely thin, as you can see, and. Maybe TMI. Sorry. Anyway, so
What's that? I'm sorry, I'm not American. What does this TMI mean?
oh, too much information.
No, I don't care. It's okay.
No, I don't think I was successful, but I do have like very thick, coarse body hair. You can see my
Me too.
My hair. Yeah, you do too. And so my chart is also, it's interesting because my chart is not rectified. I never like fully rectified it, and I find it funny.
You don't have your certificate of birth?
I do, yeah, but I don't think it's exactly the time that it is because it's on the hour. So yeah. I mean, if I moved into this fourth one, which of course I like a lot better, it's more in alignment with some of the other things I've read in like the Hora chapter and stuff. But then it of course changes a lot of things, and so who knows? But my Saptamsa Lord here, this Saptamsa Lord would be, let's see, we would have Mercury for the first, Venus, and then Mars. So that's why it's kind of so negative, because it's the Mars one. Mm-hmm. My Mars is not aspecting this Saptamsa, and it's not really in a super strong position. So maybe that's why I'm not like this horrible person that this Saptamsa describes.
Okay.
All right, we'll look at yours.
The second, we said the third one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's here. Oh, the first one's missing. Damn, that's sad.
In the third is born one whose face, eyes, and limbs are small and coppery. A thin man, excellent appearance, a jealous man who roars like fire, is fond of strife, and is under the influence of evident anger. He is a generous person.
What?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know. This is the fourth one would be one who's born tall, dark, thick, man, raised shoulders and nose, eyes like bulls, a huge jaw, and a nose long an elephant's. His mind is always longing for festivals and games. And the second, no, it doesn't. I don't know. Doesn't fit. Well, I don't feel it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the I'm not feeling that either, but I'm looking at the final shlokas, and it's possible that he wants us to look at the moon instead. But we don't have to get into that right now. I mean, it's just kind of like what we keep seeing in this text of like, you can look at these things, and if the Lord is strong, and making a big impact, like it says here, right, then these things may become more prevalent. So you always have to look at how the Lord of the Saptamsa is placed, and arguably it's not even important if the Lord of the Saptamsa is not aspecting or not like really, really strong and really influential in other ways. So I think that's really it's just interesting because it gives us an insight into a lot of other techniques in this text too. So otherwise we got chapter 31. Okay.
Chapter 31 is about the moon in Navamsas. So now we're going to really common use. Let's just say everybody knows this, but let's just say, the Navamsa is the most used divisional chart in Vedic astrology.
Yeah.
And it's instrumental to see dignity. It's instrumental to see a lot of things related to the internal aspects of the person, as well as marriage and so on.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, one quick thing I just thought of too is that looking at the Saptamsas of Sagittarius, because he eliminates repetitions, the first Saptamsa would be Jupiter, the second would be Saturn, but then we have to skip Saturn and Jupiter's signs and jump to Aries.
Mars.
So Mars is the third ruler. So we both have that Mars Saptamsa. Okay, anyway. So yeah, the moon in every one of the Navamsas. This is like the only text where I've found this, which is cool. And again, if the Lord of the Navamsa is strong, whatever the moon establishes arises in order from that Lord and from the Lord of the sign.
This is what I was telling you. Like, there's no mention of Bargotama here, right? That's what I wanted to mention.
It's, I think, chapter 33, I think, is where we're going to find it.
No, but he doesn't say it at the beginning of the Navamsa chapter.
No, he doesn't.
That's what I meant,
Yeah.
Which is interesting in my opinion.
All right, well, we can just look at our Navamsas for fun. What's yours?
Mine is Bargotama, actually, in Aquarius.
Okay, mine's in Virgo, so we'll do mine first. Okay, should be done.
Virgo.
Mine is. Oh no, wait. No, I'm sorry. Mine. We have to look at the sign itself. So we will look at yours first because
So
it's going
mine
by sign.
is
Yeah.
320, 640, 10, 1320. It's in the fourth.
Okay, so yeah, this is it right here then.
I'm sorry. There we go. One born in the fourth is a tall and thin. Is tall and thin. I'm kind of tall. I'm not that thin. His jaw is small. His eyebrows curved. His eyes inscrutable. What does that mean? You can't read my eyes.
Something like that. Yeah.
The row of his teeth bright and his nose raised. He is a timid man who travels abroad, one who speaks harshly and commits evil deeds. Yeah, more or less sounds
exactly.
Like except for the evil deeds, but yeah.
All right, yeah. So we'll attempt mine here.
Reading these descriptions about this was written 2,000 years ago, more or less.
Yeah.
Man, and when you read classics, you realize how harsh the ancient world was, and how soft we are, and this kind of justifies why we have so much violence in movies, so much violence in fiction. It's because the human psyche still that's why we have Mars. The human psyche is still accustomed to all that harshness that we live to get here, in a way.
Yeah,
but whatever, let's continue.
Okay, and the third which is mine, third Navamsa of Pisces, is born a pale man whose body sags with weariness. His eyes are handsome. He abounds in politeness and righteousness, is clever and well-behaved, wears the sacred thread. I assume that's some like Vedic thing, I don't know. Knows the meaning of the sciences and speaks clearly, but he is a rogue inside. Well, I mean, I got to admit that in a lot of ways this is kind of accurate. Like my body doesn't sag with weariness, but I do get tired a lot. And then I used to wear a mala, but I don't anymore because it just it looked pretentious as hell.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
If
you're even if you're an Indian who's secular.
Yeah, man, it just looks pretentious as hell. The rogue inside thing, though, man, like I have had in the past, at least growing up, like when I was in a darker place, man, I've had some venomous thoughts about people.
What do you mean a darker place? Like a place with no electricity?
Exactly. Yeah, when I lived in a place with no electricity, which was never fun. I live in the States. Jeez. Yeah, but no,
That was a joke, by the way.
I know. It's a good joke too. Yeah. But no, I'll be honest. Like, I mean, I have had a rogue, like I've been growing up, I was really rebellious. I was like, not an outright troublemaker, but like, oh man, it's so tame compared to what you could imagine. Like it's so stupid. Like going to a private school and like wearing ripped jeans, even though the teachers kept telling me not to. Like it was like such a big deal. Of course, meanwhile, you had kids like snorting coke and like selling pot, like here and there. Like but they're really upset.
Like all private schools.
Yeah, they're really upset that an honor student is wearing ripped jeans.
Yeah,
that's what they're upset about.
That's how the cookie crumbles. That's how the system is. I mean,
but yeah,
you can snort cocaine, but you have to follow the rules. And as long as you follow the rules, the system will compensate you, and you can snort your cocaine in the back of the house. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely.
That's how the system works. I mean.
Yep, it's true.
Now we're old, and we realize that, and I think the same goes for me. I was never I am a troublemaker, but I am not like I'm like an idea troublemaker more than a person who gets into fist fights and that.
Me too. I'm an idea troublemaker, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so what we've seen is in Fernando's Vargotama placement, it's Saturn, right? It's Aquarius, Saturn, Navamsa. Mine is Jupiter, Mercury, Navamsa. So we can see how he's describing these and why, according to his rationale. Of course, I agree with you that I think he is far, the one thing I don't like about this text is that he is far too negative when it comes to Saturn and Mars. I think it's a little one-dimensional.
Which is something that we see in all classics. And I mean,
pretty much,
yeah. You see it in Hellenistic and you see it in Persian. And
But actually, what's interesting is that Jaimini is like one of the texts where it's a bit more neutral.
It's more cryptic sometimes.
It's more cryptic, but it's a bit more it's not
bad
so
or good.
damning.
It's like, what?
Yeah, it's not so damning. Like he says.
I remember if the Atmakarka is in a Rashi of Saturn, that means that you're gonna work with your family, which is, you're gonna follow your family profession, which is, as you said, just not bad. It's like, what the fuck does that have to do with Saturn? So in Jaimini, you don't get the negative; you just get like, Which,
he says that Mars in the 7th from Swampsha yields a spouse who is missing a limb, but again,
which makes sense.
Yeah, but again, like if we look at that psychologically, we can derive from that the person may be like a risk taker. They may be like
or something is missing psychologically, or some trauma is there.
Right. Well, I'm just thinking like Mars in terms of like, why might you lose a limb? If you were because putting yourself in dangerous situations or something like that.
And Mars also rules, how do you say, people without arms and people without.
Like soldiers or warriors and stuff who lose limbs. So you can extrapolate a lot from that, but like Yavanajataka can just be like, as we've seen a few times here, just really one-dimensional with Mars and Saturn compared to like Jaimini, and even there's a few other texts too where
do you think it's more that we've become soft and we don't want to accept that these?
I think that's part of it.
Bad, or do you think that we've just that they're wrong and we're right, that malefic dignities can be positive from a certain point? Because there are 3 points of view, or either they are right and we're wrong, or we're wrong and they're right, or either we're right or we're both wrong at the same time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because if they're malefics, well, logically, one would conclude that the dignities of Mars and Saturn would be negative. But then you have to, and we've talked about these in other videos, we would have to define the idea of what Mars and Saturn are. Are they good? Are they bad? But then you get into very subjective realms in terms of judgment. So, but the idea is, like you said, it's very negative, man. It's always the same thing.
Yeah, well, to me, it's two things. Or a few things, maybe more than two. It's that the ancient authors seem to be teaching by like extremes in their shlokas and stuff,
which usually serve to hid the real
to weed out the people who weren't going to be serious astrologers and stuff, people who weren't going to think about it too deeply. And
you get that in magical books also,
Yeah, you
where
do.
If you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna
poison yourself or something. Yeah. But the other part of it too is that I think on some level we have grown pretty soft because a lot of these things end up being like really accurate when you know how to do them properly. And, as far as like, there's this new age concept that we're somehow more evolved today. And I couldn't disagree with that more.
Which is bullshit.
Total bullshit. I think we're less evolved.
I think that's like our main thing that brings us together.
We're stupid, I guess.
It's technically the fallacy of evolution brought to the astrological world, because and we've talked about this. How can the spirit be eternal and be evolving at the same time? Man?
No, it can't.
It's not logical.
No. But I also just think our modern era is in many ways much less whole. It's much more fragmented than past eras.
Yeah, it's in not many traditional. Ways. It's not a traditional society. We do not base our society on metaphysical, perennial, eternal principles.
Teachings, yeah.
We base them on economic, temporal meanings, And that's more or less the root of all the, negative aspects of our society, because we are spiritual beings, and modern society has
no regard for that really.
That's not true, that we're logical.
Yeah.
That we are noble animals, that there's no need for God, there's no need for religion, there's no need for spirituality. And then you get all these half-cooked, half-concocted modern spiritual perspective that have postulated these ideas that are not perennial knowledge, that are not part of a traditional corpus. Like, for example, the idea of combining evolution with spiritual principles. The idea of supreme humanism. Also, the idea of psychology is there in a way. And also the idea of progress, of not realizing what the ancients thought. For example, just let's give an example. Okay. Mediumship, spiritualists, they call them. Yeah.
In the 19th century, they were called the spiritualists, right?
Yeah, the idea of mediums and their importance. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, ancient world would just see that as something normal and something that is not necessarily conducive to the superior, right? Because what these people do in a way is that they just channel like
whatever's there
or spiritual parasites that just
they do. It's true.
Translate something that is dying to us, and we think it's our family members. We think. But it's not. It's just a parasite. It's just this incarnate being that is just tricking us in many ways. And ancient people knew that, but since we've been disconnected, we think it's like, it's an evidence of life after death, which exists. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the evidence to prove it. And we can also go into other fields, and there are some writers who talked about this. But I don't know why we're talking about this, but
my point was
we're soft.
Yeah, well, and
not only that, sometimes when people have these Mars and Saturn dignities, they can suppress these malefic impulses, and then sickness occurs, or schizophrenia occurs, or some type of.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to be who you are and accept yourself and fight from that position and move on with your life. Yeah, I'm sorry, you wanted to say something.
Well, actually, it makes me think this little aside we've had makes me think of a couple things. But my original point was like a friend of mine was telling me about somebody he had to deal with who was like, doing like cocaine and was like 400 pounds and was like exchanging drugs.
Cocaine and 400 pounds?
Or maybe it wasn't cocaine. Maybe it was another. Maybe it was another drug.
That doesn't make sense.
No, I'm sorry. Maybe it was another drug. I forget. He was doing some kind of drug, and he was like 400 pounds, and he was exchanging drugs for like sexual favors and stuff, and and he wasn't keeping his word. Big surprise with regard to money, and so it's like
he was selling drugs.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, this is like an example of how these horrible types of people and situations still exist. And that if we looked at his chart and we read some of these things in these old texts, it'd probably be spot on, Mm-hmm. So this stuff still exists. Another thing is like with the suppression thing you talked about, like I have a friend who has like a really strong Mars, like super, super prominent.
But in a good way.
Well, the thing is like this person definitely has like struggled with like a lot of anger and is like, kind of naturally like a more violent individual, which doesn't mean that they're not literally violent. Like they don't literally go out and like hurt people, but like this person had talked about at times like really wishing they could just go out and like, kill a bunch of unrighteous people. In this case,
he should get in the army or something.
Well, no, because that's not really their idea of.
Okay, then they're gonna suffer.
Well, No, actually, they've fortunately been able to overcome a lot of this stuff. But
channel those energies. Okay.
But my point is that, like, you know, the stuff is not inaccurate. It's just that it's not manifesting in quite as literal and one-dimensional of a way as we find in these shlokas, because you can't address everything in the shloka. You know, you just can't. So this person I'm thinking of would have made an excellent warrior if they had been born maybe in a different era where there was something worth fighting for. Like maybe in a tribal society, they might have been some kind of warrior.
And you needed a king. Yeah.
Yeah. Or whatever, you know? So it's a complex thing. It's not one dimensional. Life's not one dimensional. And I still think that even though I don't like this aspect of Yavanajataka, I think that by including these shlokas that we keep reading, like, you know, you have to look at the dignity of the planet and that stuff, that the author is hinting at a deeper holistic way of analyzing a chart. It's just that he's choosing to, whoever he was, like, you know, originally not Spoojmeister, but Yavanajataka, the Lord of the Greeks, whoever the hell that was, right, chose to teach in like these very kind of extremes. So
yeah, this was a good aside. Yeah,
I think so too. Cool. So chapter 32 is
the moon in Navamsa of planets.
Yeah, so no longer specific Navamsas, but any Navamsa ruled by the 7 planets. And this is a relatively short chapter. What's cool about this is it's not just in the Navamsas of planets, but it's also in that Navamsa with all the other planets aspecting. So, like, for example, should we do ours, or?
Yeah, go for yours. Mine is in Aquarius, so.
Okay.
But it's in conjunction.
It's in the Navamsa of Saturn conjunct Jupiter, right?
No, it's in the Navamsa of Aquarius conjunct Mars and conjunct Sun.
Right. But it's in a Navamsa of Saturn, right? Saturn rules Aquarius.
Yeah,
and then it's conjunct Jupiter in the Rashi chart, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, so we can try both and see what happens.
Sure.
So let's see. Where is Saturn? Maybe the last one, or?
There you go. 13.
13? Oh, okay. So moon in the Navamsa of Saturn and aspected by, well, you can try both Mars and then try Jupiter.
So the moon in the Navamsa of Saturn, if it's aspected by, I mean, it's in conjunction.
But I think that counts. I mean, I would think that counts, but
let me just see the other, just to be sure, because I don't remember the other aspects. Sign aspect, but I have a couple of sign aspects. Does that count also?
I would do a degree-based aspect personally.
Okay, cool. Fuck it. Vamos para allá.
Yeah.
So the moon in the Navamsa of Saturn, if it's aspected by Mars, a wealthy man with many sorrows. Okay. and with the sun, where is the sun?
It's right here. A cruel person whose property has vanished.
Diablo. Bad trip. Yeah. Okay, there you go.
And if by Jupiter, a well-behaved and distinguished person who's intent on good conduct and giving pleasure.
There we go. There you go. We counterbalanced it. Okay, I'm fine with that. I'll take that, Spoojy's Meister. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with basically my moon's Navamsa, but what is aspecting my moon in the Rashi chart, and so that's how I thought about it when I first read this. And so my moon is in a Navamsa of Mercury, aspected by Jupiter. If by Jupiter, the counselor of a king or one who understands politics. Well, I haven't really counseled a king. I haven't really, I mean, and I understand politics, but not like, I understand real politics. I don't understand the bullshit that goes on in today.
You gotta wait till your Saturn returns. So yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, but I mean, do you use, like, when you do the Navamsa the way you were doing it, do you use like regular Graha Drishti, or are you using like Gemini?
That's a very controversial subject that I've been fighting with for a long time. I sometimes do, I sometimes don't. But yeah, you could use it because and you know, in Jyotish, there's a lot of controversy about that. But I use it sometimes, you know, when I'm using Vimshottari to play around and justify things. But
using what, Rashi aspect or Graha Drishti?
No, Graha Drishtis in
Navamsa.
Yeah.
Okay.
People use those.
Yeah, because then I would have Venus aspecting my moon, and I think that would be it. And you know, that's a different one here. But anyway, it's just interesting stuff to ponder.
As we've discussed before, Vargas, and we've discussed this in other, I think behind camera, but you know, Vargas is something that a lot of people use, and they use them in very different ways, and the classics divide them in many ways. And you know, the simpler the better, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that, but
I do. And I mean, I personally like to kind of do more what Yavanajataka does, where I just incorporate the divisionals into the Rashi chart. Like I will place them around the Rashi chart, and I will look and see if any natal planets are aspecting those Navamsa positions and stuff, or if the Navamsas are close to a planet by degree. That's how I like to do it.
And obviously, you know, additional factors for qualifying dignity. And
additional factors for qualifying dignity.
That's how you can go safe with Vargas, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I don't really, I mean, the thing is I don't really use Navamsa for marriage, for example. I don't really use...
I'm starting not to use it now.
I don't really use Saptamsa
I'm starting not to use it now, yeah. I'm using it for marriage, but I'm starting not to use it now. Like in the... A few months ago, I just started not using it because... I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm losing faith in Vargas right now. I'm in a critical state in my Jyotish development right now. Because
I think it's the way. I think the way people use them in this day and age has made them questionable.
The thing is that we have so much computing power, and our mind is so human. And we have this ability to do these Vargas now that would have taken us
hours. Yeah, many hours.
Days.
Yeah, many days.
Well, no, hours if you are a smart man who can apply himself. But I would have taken days. And you know, you have in 2 seconds so much information, and there's so many ways to process it. You know, ancient people didn't know how to. You know, ancient people, you know, usually did not do all this to qualify astrological charts. So you know, we got to realize that.
And here's the beauty of not using a computer to do many calculations is that you will end up actually the things that you end up being inspired to calculate by hand will be more likely in tune with your intuition.
Because you're using mudras. Because that's part of it, but I mean, the brain processes the information in a much more efficient way, because that's how we've been doing it for millennia. Yeah,
when you can't just click a button and have whatever you want, but you're thinking and you're doing things by hand. You go, oh, I should check the Navamsa of this one planet. There's probably something to that, and you're probably gonna get better information than if you can just go, let me look at the whole Navamsa. Let me look at all 16 divisional charts with one click of a button.
And another thing is that when a consultation goes on or when you read cards, things happen that are not in your control. And
like a card falls out of the deck while you're
No, not only that. I mean,
or a window breaks in the distance.
Well, those are things that happen and you have to interpret it. But
those are omens.
When you are giving counsel, when somebody comes to you, you know, in that precise moment, everything happened for that to happen. Like you were born, you were raised, and everything happened in that moment for something to happen.
Right.
And whatever happens has to happen and will happen. And you're just dealing with something so alive and so porous, and start to happen that you just ride the wave in many ways. And that's where technique and intuition just melt into one thing, and you just gotta flow with the energy that you feel. And when you do when you do consultations, these things happen, and you just lose control. In my case, you just become part of the experience. And as you said, if you feel, I got to see this, you see that. I got to do this. And that's how you roll with it. And let me tell you, every consultation is different. Every process is different. And you just got to know the basic techniques. And that's like the lift off. And then you just fly. I mean.
Well, I remember I was doing a reading. My friend and I were co-reading for this person. And I did a tarot spread. And she brought a prajna chart because we didn't have this person's birth time.
Okay.
And my friend was like, my friend told me, like, read the prajna chart from the moon. So I just was like, okay. So I did. And man, it was incredibly accurate. And for some reason, I kept wanting to look at Saturn in like Scorpio in the chart. And it was like the sixth house from the house representing her sun. And I kept like feeling like, is there some like
sickness
thing? And like it turned out he had just had to have like surgery or something, or he had broken his arm or something like that, So a very like Mars Saturn kind of sixth house thing. And I was just like, I was blown away by how much I got out of this prajna. And this was a prajna written down on a piece of paper in the sidereal zodiac. So
I have an interview in my channel with a Puerto Rican Vedic astrologer called Jose Garcia, and he told me this story of this woman who was sick, like dying of cancer. Damn. And she went to a conference, and he had brought this guy from India who was a Jyotishi, and he started reading the chart of the woman, and she asked him, like, am I going to get well? This was like advanced cancer.
Oh, wow.
Everybody told her she was going to die. And he was reading the chart, and he said, no, you're going to get well, you're going to improve, and you're going to become healthy. And then Jose, which is the astrologer, he noticed that the chart the Jyotishi was reading was not this woman's chart.
Okay.
So he was giving the prediction from another chart, and guess what? She got well and she improved. Yeah. So, things happen omened correctly. I mean, you really can't describe it to words. You got to experience it.
Yeah, one time I got the correct answer from a horary chart that was miscalculated for the wrong location. It had a completely different rising sign, but I still got the answer right.
Man, and the more you do it, the more you realize, like, you're just a puppet in many ways. I mean, in this sense, you're just flowing with it. You're just surfing the wave, and you just got to ride it. And there's a space for free will, without a doubt. But when you do these things, like, you are accepting the magic
of the moment,
take over, not in a negative way, but you just let it just drop and just feeling.
Yeah, like in dubstep.
Exactly. That's the drop, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When will the bass drop? There's that good.
But that's the one. Yeah. We're getting old. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think at the end of our video, I want to talk a little bit about how I use Navamsa and Dwadasamsa as well, because it's kind of partly based off of this text, but I think it'll be helpful for.
Yeah. We're having 2 chapters more. The one is D9 and the other one is D12, as you mentioned. So,
so chapter 33 is kind of a short chapter in comparison. It's just now the planets in their own Navamsas and other Navamsas. So Mars in all of the different planetary Navamsas and so on. So this is where I don't want to do this right now, but we could go crazy and look at literally, all of our planets and all of the Navamsas that they're in.
No, I mean, we could just do the...
Let's do a couple, yeah.
Yeah, we can do the Ascendant Lord.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Yours would be what, Jupiter?
Capricorn.
It's in Capricorn? Oh, okay.
In the 7th.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty negative, dude.
I think I read it. It wasn't that bad.
Oh, okay. All right, Jupiter. Yeah, here we go.
I want to say that he starts with the.
No, it wasn't. It's not that bad. You're right.
No, it's not that bad. He starts with the Vargotama position.
Yes.
he says it's good, but he doesn't say this is the best. You know what I mean? It's a good position.
Well, okay.
Yeah, what are you gonna say?
Well, we'll look at a shloka that elucidates that in a moment. But
okay. Yeah, it's just one. Yeah.
So and Jupiter here
in the Navamsha of Saturn, a great and wealthy person who speaks cruelly. Yeah.
Yeah, not really that bad actually.
Yeah.
And then
you are a great person, Lars. You are a great person. Cook me my meal now.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Mine is Mercury. It's in its own Navamsha. So Mercury in its own Navamsha produces an eloquent person who knows poetry. But actually, this isn't Vargotama because my Mercury is in Aries, right? So it's not in the same,
No, you got to look at the Navamsha of Mars.
Oh, why?
Because it's in Aries, right?
Yeah. But it's in Air. The ascendant lord is in Aries, Mercury, right? But it's in Gemini in the Navamsha, so it's not Vargotama.
Oh, correct. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah.
These are not necessarily Vargotama,
That's true.
They're just in their own, yeah. And it seems like we'll typically find too that if you check them for the exaltations as well, they're pretty positive.
Yes, that's true.
Overall, I saw that. Like what Venus in a Navamsha of Jupiter, right? Maybe Pisces, strong, courageous, preeminent, city or best poet. So we can find that as well. And then so we get the basic idea of it, and it's great resource. But if we go down here, we find the Vargotama thing.
That was
the Vargotamamshas. They say that a good influence is complete, a bad one less. Like a bad influence is lessened. In the Navamshas of their own houses, influence is middling, and in Navamshas of other planets' houses, minute. So that's really important because arguably a Vargotama planet by Navamsha is better than if it moves into its own house or exaltation, at least according to this text. Now, in practice, does that work? I don't know, really, to be honest. I don't know that it does. Because if you're like doubly fallen, to me, or doubly dejected by Rashi and Navamsha position, that may be Vargotama, but does that really make it really good?
That's a debate, actually, especially when it comes to Nichavanga, to cancellation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or Uchavanga, that people usually don't talk about that, which is cancellation of exaltation.
Oh, is that the retrograde thing? Or?
No, that's bullshit. It's Uchavanga. Uchavanga is, for example, you have Sun in Aries in D1, and you have Sun in Libra in D9.
Oh, yeah, that's real. That's a real.
The retrogression, that's bullshit.
No, I don't agree with that.
The retrogression, that's just bullshit. That doesn't work. I'm sorry if I insult anyone.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyone out there?
Your plan is your Jupiter's retrograde in Cancer. You have a horrible Cancer, horrible Jupiter. Come on, that's not how it is.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. No,
that doesn't make sense.
And then at the very end here, he just talks about the Dwadasamsas, which we're going to see in the next chapter. I don't know why he mentions this here, but when the Lord of the Dwadasamsa in the ascendant is the strongest Lord or is in a cardine, it establishes that the nature of the native is made that of the sign to which the Dwadasamsa belongs. So that's really interesting because it's sign-based. Can't help but wonder if this shloka should have been in the beginning of chapter 34. I don't think it's a mistype. I think it's just the shloka should probably be in chapter 34. So chapter 34, the final chapter we'll do for today, is all about the Dwadasamsas. And as we're going to see, it's
the D12 chart.
D12. And it's all about the signs. It's calculated just like any other Dwadasamsa that I know of, except Dwadasamsa is not a harmonic calculation, meaning that it's not geometrical, like around the whole circle. It's just geometrical for the sign. But what I find so interesting about this is that it's not what I'm going to say is not perfectly in accordance with what it said in the text, but it's almost as though he's hinting that the Dwadasamsas are more for things and people in life, not subjective states of consciousness. So
yes, usually Dwadasamsa is used for parents.
Right. So, for example, we find not only that the sun and moon are being established as pertaining to the father and mother by Dwadasamsha, right? It's very clear here. Sun in Aries Dwadasamsha produces the power of the native's father. The moon in Aries Dwadasamsha produces a disease of his mother, and so on. But if we look at some of the other planets, right? Jupiter seems to pertain to treasure and gold and wealth instead of like wisdom and dharma. Venus pertains to the wife. Mars is kind of I don't know, Mars is weird. Mars is a little more subjective. Mercury can sometimes pertain to friends, right? Friends who are ill-behaved and terrible. And Saturn can pertain to servants and things like that. So
more or less makes sense, yeah.
Again, we're going to find some things that pertain to like potentially the subjectivity of the native, but what I really think is being hinted at here is that he wants us to use the Dwadasamsha for more like how events and people in life unfold and come into our lives, like it's more of an external thing, whereas the D9 and even the D7 seem to be more subjective and internal. The D12 seems to be, more about things and people.
Which would be, carcassship for people in our lives, people who we use. So more concrete results in terms of interpersonal relationships, you might say. Yeah. Not in a romantic sense, but in a platonic, professional, and, other people in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So,
do you want to do your ascendant lord?
Yeah, sure. Mine is Mercury, and it falls in Cancer by Dwadasamsha. So,
mine falls in Gemini.
Oh, okay.
And I want to say that
Gemini's right here.
Yeah. That some descriptions are, especially in exaltation, are not that good. I remember seeing the Venus in Pisces was not that good, but we can read that.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay.
Which makes sense, as you're going to see. But yeah, ¿dónde estoy? Where am I?
I guess you would
Jupiter, be one whose money is gathered from fine arts, oratory, and the sacred traditions. That's true.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Nice. Mine will be Mercury in Cancer. So here it is. Because of Mercury in Cancer by Dwadasamsha, obtains powerful friends and the highest joy. I would say I have powerful friends, definitely.
Yeah, you have me as a friend,
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a level 39 in Pokemon Go.
Nice.
And I have 2,000 friends on Facebook, and
there you
I have about $80 in my bank account. So yeah. Nice.
Yeah. All right. But I've certainly had like a lot of friends, and Mercury in Cancer. Cancer is classically any of the water signs are generative, so they generate a lot of things, whatever they generate. Let's go to that. What was it? Venus in Pisces.
Venus in Pisces.
Yeah, that's interesting.
A spiritual wife that's gonna get persecuted. The last one. It's to the right.
Oh, okay.
The next page. There you go. Up.
Yeah, there it is. One whose wife is opposed by a great arhat.
That was a saint, a Buddhist saint.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And then I was going to look for the other ones, but my grandmother told me I had to buy some onions, so I had to stop.
Oh, okay.
And I forgot.
Yeah, so you must have one that says...
That's story.
One whose grandmother asks him to buy onions at inconvenient moments. That would be...
Yeah, no, it's not onion. It's the thin one, the green one. How do you call it?
Oh gosh.
In English, I don't know. Leeks. I think it's leeks. Yeah. She's making Chinese rice right now. So
awesome. That sounds delicious. Yeah. But anyway, like I think that we have to remember too with the Dwadasamshas that there may not only there's a dignity thing there for sure, but there may also be something to do with the natural house scheme. So like Pisces is the natural 12th house, so that could be part of it.
And Venus in Pisces is like unconditional love. more than sexual love. So
That's
it kind
true.
of makes sense of the spiritual wise. We can look to the other exaltations. Let's look, for example, towards Mars in Capricorn. That should be just to see, just to examine, because I couldn't do this because this was the last chapter in
Mars causes the birth of famous sons in the Dwadasamsas of Capricorn. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes Mars refers to sons, even though Jupiter is the Karaka of children.
Yeah. And Jupiter says destroys the acquisition of good, which would be the debilitation of it.
Yeah, debilitation, right. And I would say...
What did Mercury say in Pisces? I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Oh, Mercury's pretty negative in Pisces, yeah.
So, it's going...
It was...
but Venus there, maybe it's because it's a female planet?
A man corrupted in speech who has evil friends.
What did Moon say in Taurus? Maybe it's because it's a girl,
Oh, Moon in Taurus I remember being pretty good.
Okay, well, whatever. Looks like Venus got a bad rap.
Yeah. Now I don't know where the hell I am.
I have Venus exalted, and I'm being persecuted by a holy man.
Right? The moon gives prosperity, happiness, and food of his mother when in Taurus.
Nice, beautiful.
And, we could extend some of these meanings as we read it. It's a good exercise for those who want to do this, like to say, where was it? Mars in Dwadasamsas of Capricorn causes the birth of famous sons and heroic brothers or something like that, Just extend it to the other Martian things we know of. For all the planets, the sun and moon in the Dwadasamsas of Aquarius cause disease, sickness, and defects of the parents, and maybe associations with people who live near water.
Yeah. Yeah. And for that, you got to know the significators of the signs and the which we've discussed in other videos, and people should be aware that we've done other videos in this series, and if they're interested, they should look up those two before they proceed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what does it say at the end of this chapter?
In 30?
Just the very end here.
29.
Anything of note, or?
One should make manifest the nature and condition which are caused by the Dwadasamsas, and which are connected with the qualities of the benefic and malefic planets. Whatever substances, signs, natures, and characters are described as being determined for a particular period of time. These are modified by the various sub-influences of the lords of the signs, which are similar to those of the Dwadasamsas. If to any lord of a sign anywhere there belongs any characteristic below, high, or medium. Did you understand that part?
No, it seems like a incomplete sentence or bad translation.
Damn you, Pingree. Okay, it is modified by mutually caused changes.
Oh, no, it's this sentence runs into this next paragraph. That's why.
That's true. I'm sorry. Yeah.
If to any lord of a sign anywhere there belongs any characteristic, be it low, high, or medium, it is modified by mutually caused changes whose nature derives from its position and from the qualities of the sign and the Dwadasamsas in which it is. 100 such factors as friendly planets are to be taken into consideration with colors, changes, and forms similar to those of the Dwadasamsas of their houses. So, I don't know. I think he's just, again, trying to say, like, you really have to check a number of things to make sure.
Sujishvaya was using Atlantic computers back then.
Exactly. So, yeah. But, I think to wrap it up, what I wanted to say is one,
the way you use Navamsas and Dwadasamsas.
Yeah.
Which you mentioned briefly in chapter 1, in the first video we did on this series, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did probably. But I have an article in Celestial Vibes, July.
Probably the best astrological magazine right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Honestly, it's by our friend Ashwin, and we both contribute to it. But I have an article there on the divisionals of the Yavanajataka, if anyone wants to check that out. And in the addendum section, I talk a little bit about the numerology associated with these divisions, and
which would be 1, 9, 12, correct?
Or 7, 9, 12, the ones those three that we talked about. It's mostly on those three. And I'm gonna stop share here. And yeah, so what I have to say is like, basically what I discovered from the Yavanajataka is it seems like the Navamsa, because it's so heavily associated with the moon and whatnot, and 9 is very much like kind of the number of soul, in a sense, the number of complete harmony, because it's 3 by 3. It seems like the Yavanajataka instructs us to use Navamsa to see how the person will sort of react internally to the events of life, like what they'll do with them, how they affect the mind, or how the mind affects them. Because that's why I think a good planet in the Navamsa can like cause a change in fortune, even if that planet's in bad condition otherwise in the chart, because it's like the person taking that event and naturally wanting to do something with it that's more optimistic or whatever. And so I like to use the Navamsa just in a basic way, check the dignity. And, you can check some other stuff too, but just check the dignity to see like, how is this person going to respond? What's the sort of, what comes from these things that we see in the chart, like, does the person, okay, for example, I'll just use myself. Like, I have kind of an afflicted Venus in my chart, right? But it's in Pisces by Navamsa. And I will say that even though I've had my heart broken like countless times in matters of love, I've learned a tremendous amount from that. And I don't feel like I'm bitter because of it. So that's what I'm talking about.
With my Venus.
Cool.
My Venus is heavily afflicted, but in Navamsa is in the 4th in Libra.
Nice.
So I think I can subscribe to what you're saying in that Venus case, and I can also subscribe to what you're saying about Navamsa, which cool. Makes sense in many ways.
So yeah, that's a nice way to use Navamsa. And then I use Dwadasamsas not maybe quite as literally as Spoojmeister tells us to use it in terms of like external things, but I use it to like see, okay, so we have these karmas here in the chart, and then if we check their Dwadasamsa position, how are things going to like unfold? How is the knot of destiny going to get untied, and what's going to happen as it gets untied?
That reminds me to the description that some people use for nakshatras in many ways.
That's cool. Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah.
What you're saying is the route the karma is going to take, right? That's more or less what you mean.
And the 12th parts also seem to have something to do with like what's behind the karma too, like what's the root, because it's like the 12th house kind of, what's behind your birth, so to speak. So the 12th parts are really useful. And of course, Yavanajataka instructs us that, if a planet is in its own Navamsa, it's like it being in its own Mula Drekkana. And if it's in its own Dwadasamsa, it's like it's being in its own sign. So both Navamsa and Dwadasamsa are clearly important for dignity assessment in Yavanajataka. And then, of course, the Saptamsas, which I really haven't played with that much. But my theory is they have kind of a Saturnic, this is like what you have to do in life. This is kind
because
of
it's number 7.
Yeah, 7. Kind of a compulsion of fate or destiny, so to speak.
It can also do with the idea, well, you mentioned this briefly, that the idea of the 7 being associated with partners, and you said that was not necessarily because of the number 7, but because of the division.
The geometric harmonic division, yeah.
It's usually done with partners because that's the way you get children, right? Because the D7 is used for children, but you can't have children alone. You need children through other people, unless you are some type of clone or asexual creature that can reproduce itself like some sort of frog. But and it kind of makes sense that we can bridge the idea of Saturn and other people and children also by the idea of the Maraca, right? The Maraca house of the 7th. It's why the 2nd and the 7th are maracas, because that has to do a lot with Saturn in many ways, because Saturn is death. Because what's going to kill you? Whatever comes into your mouth, or other people are going to kill you, And it makes sense, but to be honest with you, I've never really used this scheme of D12, D7, D9. It's kind of funny.
I mean, like I've said, I mostly, in my own practice, which is heavily Hellenistically influenced. The divisionals that I focus on would be D9 and D12, and then I also use Drekkana and bounds, or what are called Trimsamshas, but bounds as they're calculated in the Hellenistic system, not as they're calculated in the Indian system. And so, like, I kind of have my ways.
Which would be the bounds in the Vedic system?
The Trimsamshas, what they call Trimsamshas.
Oh, the Trimsamshas. Yeah. Okay, of course. Okay.
Yeah, and I like that version of it. I just haven't played with it enough to really get a feel for the technique. You know,
I mean, I think you couldn't mix them together, but.
Well, no, the Vedic Trimsamshas are basically like a more rational, simple version of like the Egyptian bounds or terms. It's still a fivefold division for each of the starry planets,
but the bounds are not equally divided.
Right, the bounds are not. So that's the major difference, and it is kind of a major difference. But
definitely,
I think it's the same idea.
When I saw the bounds, I was, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, man.
Does anybody know where they came from? I mean, was it Nechespo or Petrosiris who came up with these?
Okay, no one knows for sure, but there are some interesting patterns in the Egyptian bounds. Like,
I'm not questioning its efficiency. I'm just and there's a logic to it. The idea
I was gonna just
malefics are always at the end of the bounds, and
right, and actually, the mutable signs always have this Mars-Saturn bounds, which I think is, could be related to the seasonal cycle. Is very interesting, like that transition to the equinox and solstice. And it's always the same order. It's always like Saturn-Mars or Mars-Saturn, something like that. So for all four of those signs, it's the same, and they line up to form a cross. But then also in the Egyptian bound system, the number of degrees owned by each planet via their bounds across all the signs adds up to like their greater years in the system of planets and years. So like I think it's like 120 for the sun and 108 for the moon.
Yes.
Stuff like that. So
I remember reading something like that, but I can't recall right now.
Yeah, so it's really fascinating there. And so some people think that they must have had to do with like stars and sidereal stuff, but so far there's no hard proof of that. There's just no hard evidence. It's just a theory. So
yeah, but divisional charts, to say the least, and to close, tricky. Are tricky.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you start learning, you realize that a lot of people use them and not a lot of people use them the same way. And then you start realizing different schools of how Vargas are used.
Yeah.
Some more traditional, some more modern, but
yeah.
And then you read this and you get more confused. and you realize that, I mean, D9 is there, and D9 is very, very important. But there's a lot of things that goes on with divisional charts that we really don't know. And if there's a field of astrological study and research that is fertile, that people should go ahead and start studying, is probably Vargas.
Yeah, I think so too, because they are the most cryptic. Like even what are called the lots or Arabic parts are fairly straightforward. It doesn't really take a lot to make great use of those. But yeah, the Varga is like, you really have to understand what the Varga does, otherwise what's the point? There's an infinite number of ways we could divide the Rashis, and they each have to do something different, otherwise there's no point.
That's the fact that causes a little stress in my mind, the idea of the division is not homogeneous, sometimes seem kind of arbitrary in my opinion. The way that you have 2 ways of doing Horas, 3 ways of doing Drekkanas, which are the most elemental ones, and then you have the whole magical thing with the decans. That how do you fit that into brothers? How do you fit that into, I mean, there's a lot of questions, and probably there's a lot to learn and a long way to go to really understand this. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that wraps it up. Thanks for joining me again, Fernando. And for those of you watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out Fernando's page as well, and check out both of our websites for individualized readings and more. And of course, find us on Facebook and all that good stuff. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, folks.
Happy 2019.
Happy 2019.